My 27-year-old father was ended the life of in an accident back in 2020. So my 49-year-old mother is my only living parent. Back in 2023, my husband and I moved away from the city my mom currently lives in to her hometown where I was born. It's in the same state, only about 3 hours away. My mother really wanted to move back to her hometown, but I have a much younger brother who is finishing up high school, and she didn't want to make him leave his friends until he was ready, which I totally understood. I thought we were close. I really trusted her, and we texted every day and spoke on the phone every Friday. She told me even before I got pregnant that the next stage in her life was being a grandma, and that's what she wanted her time to go towards. When I first got pregnant in October, she was very attentive, always checking in with me, calling me after every appointment, etc. Then, in early February, she starts talking to the brother of a woman she knows from her church. He got divorced from his wife of over 30 years in 2022, and he lives on the opposite side of the country. He was a pastor, but stepped down to work at a charity, as he didn't think it was appropriate for him to be a pastor while being recently divorced. Within 2 weeks of texting him, she was already telling me that they were going to get married within a few months, before she'd even met him yet. Anyway, ever since then, she barely speaks with me. All of her attention goes to this guy. I looked back through our texts, and the last time she asked me about the baby without me bringing it up first was April 23rd. Before that, it was February 16th. She was supposed to plan my baby shower with my aunt and cousin, but she did absolutely nothing, didn't participate in any planning, decoration, and didn't pay for anything. She just ghosted them anytime they reached out to her about it, which makes me feel so guilty that my aunt and cousin had to do all of that work. Now, instead of staying in our state or moving closer to me like she intended, she's most likely going to be moving across the country to marry this guy as soon as her house sells. She told my brother he can go with her or stay. It's up to him. I don't have any problem with her getting remarried. She's young. She doesn't need to live the rest of her life alone. I'm almost 30. I'm not a child who needs her constant attention, and she deserves her own life. But I still feel pretty abandoned by her in a time that I thought she was excited for and wanted to participate in. I'm hurt because I feel like my baby and I just aren't as important as her boyfriend of 4 months. Am I justified in being disappointed with her and feeling let down? Or is she just living her life and I'm being too possessive over her? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This is heartbreaking. You have a right to all of the feelings that you're having. Of course, your mom has every right to live her own life. But these are not the choices of someone acting rationally. Pursuing new love, new interests, a different future, none of that requires a person to cut all their ties. Your mother's clearly going through something, and I hope this guy is okay because it sounds like she is pretty vulnerable to him. I also feel for her because if she ever comes back into her right mind, she's going to regret the damage she is doing to her relationship with you. I'm so sorry. I wish the best for you and your baby. Comment 2. I'm in a very similar situation with my mother, so I know how you're feeling. DM if you want to rant about it. I still haven't even figured out how to respond to her news of moving away. I think we are definitely justified in being upset. Motherhood is a lifelong commitment that she is flaking on. Additionally, moving with a new boyfriend that quickly and leaving your brother to fend for himself as well seems irresponsible and childish. Now, is there a way to convey these feelings that will change her mind or give a wake-up call? Maybe, but I don't know how. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So much has happened since I last wrote. The baby shower came and went, and Mom didn't show. Not a call, not a text. My aunt and cousin pulled off a beautiful day, but the empty chair where Mom should have been stung more than I expected. I tried to shake it off, focus on the love in the room, but it was tough. Then, the surprise dropped. Mom sold the house. The one we grew up in. The one with Dad's handprints still on the basement doorframe. She sold it like it was nothing to a stranger. My brother, he's 17, found out when he came home to a for sale sign on the lawn. He called me, voice shaking, asking what he should do. Mom had decided, without telling either of us, that she was moving in with her boyfriend next month. She told my brother he could stay with a friend until graduation if he didn't want to move. I was livid. How could she be so selfish? But it got worse. My brother decided to stay, and Mom left him money for groceries and rent, but that was it. She was gone, across the country, and suddenly I was the one making sure my brother ate and had clean clothes for school. In the midst of this, my husband lost his job. The company he worked for went under and we were left scrambling. I couldn't lean on Mom. She was too wrapped up in her new life. I felt abandoned, betrayed. My brother was struggling too, trying to finish high school while living on his own. But then, another twist. My brother called me late one night, panicked. He'd been in a car accident. Nothing life-threatening, but the car was totaled, and he was scared. I was 3 hours away, about to give birth any day, and I felt helpless. I wanted to be angry at Mom for not being there, but I swallowed that anger and focused on getting my brother help. I managed to get a neighbor to take him to the hospital, and I stayed on the phone with him until he was checked out and safe. It was a wake-up call. I realized that no matter how much I resented Mom for her choices, I couldn't let that resentment eat away at me. I had to be there for my brother, be the family he needed. The next day, I went into labor. It was, interesting. And in the chaos, I barely had time to think about Mom. My daughter was born, and she was perfect. I sent Mom a text with a picture, not expecting a response. To my surprise, she replied. She apologized, said she'd been wrong, that she missed the birth of her granddaughter. She wanted to come visit, to make things right. I was torn. Part of me wanted to tell her it was too late, that she'd chosen her path. But another part, the part that remembered all the good times, the part that still needed a mother, wanted to forgive her. So I did. I told her she could come. It felt like a defeat, like I was giving in. But when I looked at my daughter, I knew I had to try. For her sake, if not for mine. Mom came. It was awkward, strained. She tried to make amends, but the hurt was still there. My brother, he wouldn't even see her. I don't blame him. She's trying, though, and I'm trying to let her. It's not easy, and I don't know if things will ever be the same between us. But I'm learning that sometimes you have to let go of the anger to make room for new beginnings. Thanks for reading. Aita for giving my husband an ultimatum between his music career or our family. My husband, 32 years old male, and I, 29 years old female, have been together for 9 years. We met on Tinder, and he was a musician well before we met. I would describe myself as supportive of his musicianship. I've attended a majority of his gigs, run his band's Instagram page, created show posters, share his posts, stream his music, and play his songs for our son. I know all of the words to every song he's written. We moved to Nashville. I tell him how good his songs are, etc. I've always felt like I've done at the very least the minimum to show him that I support him. There are times that it's been rough having him gig all of the time, especially once we had our son. I spent several nights a week alone with a newborn infant while he played paid gigs, non-paid songwriter rounds, and went to band practices. Only once our son was born would I ask him when he was coming home or encourage him to hurry home because I needed help with the baby. Now that our son is a toddler and sleeps through the night, I encourage him to stay out as late as he likes and try to mingle, network. But he ends up rushing home anyway. I've never asked him to stop playing music. I have, however, voiced that I'm not happy about our son, and I coming second to his music. He has told me before that music will always come first. He is also resentful that he's not making a living from his music and admits misplacing some blame on me for that. The other night we were having a conversation about all of this. It comes up often and has become an area of contention in our marriage. It was not a heated conversation. He told me bluntly that he feels as though I don't support his passion for music, that I simply tolerate it. His reason for saying this was that I pressure him to come home and clearly wish he wasn't a musician. I did respond by saying if I could have the choice now, then ideally he would not be a musician. I regret saying that the way I did. He also said he didn't like when I gushed about my favorite bands. We had watched live videos of one of my favorites on YouTube the night before because I don't gush about his music. Now I feel like I can't listen to my choice of music around him, which I understand is a ridiculous response on my part. We haven't discussed this any further, and I've just been behaving as usual. I can't stop thinking about it. On the one hand, if he genuinely feels this way, I want to validate him and try to understand what I'm doing wrong. On the other hand, I'm feeling really manipulated. How do partners of musicians effectively navigate a relationship with a musician? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He is a musician who is not making a living from it? So, are you still working full-time in addition to parenting? How are the bills getting paid? You are not supportive of my career. Equal sign, equal sign. How dare you have expectations of me? I will admit I have definitely heard of musicians who basically abandon their family when they start to get steady work and make a name for themselves, for example, John Lennon. But I have never heard of a musician who is so jealous of other bands' success that they do not want their wife to even listen to somebody else's music. Comment 2. Your husband has major issues of low self-esteem and a fragile ego, and those are things for him to address. If he is at a point where he does not like you talking about music, unless it is his music, it is time for him to work on his issues. It is not for you to coddle his delicate ego. You are more than enthusiastic and supportive, but as long as he is struggling with his internal feelings, nothing you do will ever be enough for him, because the issue is not you, it is him. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So let me tell you what's been going on. Just when I thought things couldn't get more tense, my husband's ex-bandmate, let's call him Mr. X, decided to stir the pot. Mr. X, who had always been a bit of a snake, suddenly reappeared with an offer for my husband to join a new band. A band that was getting a lot of buzz and had connections I could only dream of. The catch? They rehearsed every night, and the gigs were out of town, weekends included. My husband was over the moon, but I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I kept my cool, though, and even helped him pack for his first weekend away. But inside, I was boiling. It was like I didn't exist, like our son didn't matter. And Mr. X knew exactly what he was doing, pulling my husband further away from us. I was being walked all over, and I did nothing. I just smiled and waved goodbye. The weekend turned into a week, then 2. Calls home became shorter, and when he was home, he was distant. I found myself alone with our son again, feeling like a single parent. But this time, it was worse, because he had a choice, and he chose not to be with us. Then, the surprise dropped. I stumbled upon messages between my husband and Mr. X. They weren't just planning music. They were planning to move the band to LA without telling me. I was livid, betrayed. I confronted him, and the argument that followed was cataclysmic. Accusations flew, and for the first time, I didn't hold back. I told him how I felt like a doormat, how he'd been selfish, and how our son needed his father. In the heat of it all, he blurted out that he felt trapped by our family, that music was his only escape. That hurt more than anything. It was like our life together, our son, was just a burden to him. But I didn't crumble. I stood my ground. I told him he had to choose, his family or his fantasy. The aftermath was a cold silence that settled over the house. He didn't leave for LA, but the tension was thick. We were like strangers passing in the hallway, both too stubborn to speak. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. Mr. X's new band suddenly imploded. Creative differences, they said. My husband was out of the band as quickly as he'd joined. He was devastated, and for the first time, I saw the man I married look completely lost. I wanted to be angry, to say, "I told you so," but I couldn't. Instead, I found myself comforting him, helping him pick up the pieces. It wasn't for him. It was for me, for our son. I couldn't let our family fall apart, even if it meant swallowing my pride. We're trying to find our way back to each other now. It's not easy, and there's a lot of hurt to work through. But we're talking, really talking, for the first time in a long while. He started to help more with our son, and I've started to let go of some of the resentment. It's not a fairy tale ending, and I don't know what the future holds. But for now, we're taking it one day at a time and trying to rebuild what was nearly lost. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find a new rhythm to our lives. Thanks for listening. Aita for forgiving my husband after finding out he might have a secret child. I, 28-year-old female, was looking through old Google Drive photos last night and came upon screenshots between my new husband of 1 month, 33-year-old male, and a girl from 2018 where she denied wanting to be in a relationship with him, just because he's the kid's dad, and another where she was expressing things were moving faster than she was comfortable with. This is all proving a parallel to my current life right now, and I'm not quite sure how to process this additional news. When we started last year, My husband said the doctors told him his chance of having kids was very slim due to having certain medications in the past. Well, now I'm pregnant and married. We've been together less than a year, and also feeling like everything was a speed run. My husband had also said he's had baby scares in the past, but they ended up not being his. He mentioned there being more than one, and I did not pry for details, but asked if he could have a kid out there he didn't know about, which he denied at the time. Now, after seeing this, I looked up the woman on social media and saw pictures of her and her son. Looking at her husband, who is pictured in the birth photo, he is obviously not the father as he is a different race. The boy also looks so much like my husband, exact facial features. My question is, how do I proceed? This isn't a case where he impregnated someone and abandoned his child. It looks like the mother was with someone else and decided to make a home with him instead. But my husband told me he knew he didn't have any rogue offspring out there, so I'm trying to decipher if this was a purposeful lie or what. I don't know if my husband has any wounds about this that would resurface if I brought this up, or if he would be upset. I was looking at old Google photos. We have had a rocky time due to my mood swings, and I've had a hard time connecting with everything lately. From him to my baby, my job, outside world, my emotions, etc. So I'm not sure if I'm just numb right now or how I should react to finding this out. My husband has dated a lot more people than me, so I was excited about sharing a first. But now I can't help but be a little sad that technically it will not be a first for him. Last night I kept seeing the kid's face every time I looked at my husband. It's a weird feeling to know my baby will have a sibling out there that is a hidden mystery. Part of me is curious about uncovering this, and the other part wants to leave it alone. I don't know how to feel and could use some advice. Thank you in advance. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This isn't a case where he impregnated someone and abandoned his child. That's literally exactly the case. You didn't even know the kid existed because he impregnated someone and then abandoned his child. I'd leave this AH immediately. What a loser. What else is he hiding? Comment 2. This isn't a case where he impregnated someone and abandoned his child. It looks like the mother was with someone else and decided to make a home with him instead. It is definitely a case where he impregnated someone and abandoned his child, then lied about it. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, a month has gone by since I found those screenshots and, well, things escalated quickly. I confronted my husband about the kid who looks just like him. He got all defensive, saying he didn't know for sure, but he suspected. Suspected. That means he lied to me before we got married. I was fuming, feeling betrayed, but that's not even the half of it. Turns out the woman reached out to him a week after our talk. She's getting a divorce, and guess what? She wants my husband to take a paternity test. She admitted the kid might be his after all. My world turned upside down. I felt like I was in some trashy daytime drama, the kind where the audience gasps at every revelation. But wait, it gets worse. My husband agreed to the test without telling me. I found out when the results came in the mail. Positive, he's the father. I was so angry I couldn't see straight. How could he keep something like this from me? But then he broke down, said he was scared of losing me, scared of being a dad to a kid he never knew. He looked so pathetic, so desperate for forgiveness, and I forgave him. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just as scared as he is. Now we're dealing with custody arrangements. The woman, she's pushing for my husband to be involved in the kid's life, and he wants to be, which is good, I guess. But it's all happening so fast. I'm still pregnant, still trying to wrap my head around being a stepmom before I'm even a mom. And as if that wasn't enough, my job's on the line. My boss found out I was snooping through old files. It was when I was trying to find more about my husband's past. I was put on leave, pending investigation. It's like everything's falling apart. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, my husband's ex shows up at our door, kid in tow. She's crying, saying her ex kicked her out and she has nowhere to go. My husband, being the guy he is, lets her stay with us. Now I'm living with my husband, his kid, and the kid's mother. It's a mess. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm trying to be understanding, but it's hard. I see them, this ready-made family, and I feel like an outsider. My husband keeps saying, we'll get through this together, but I'm not so sure. I'm jealous, ashamed, and just so tired. I'm still pregnant, still trying to hold on to my job, still trying to figure out my place in this new, chaotic life. It's like I'm on a sinking ship and I can't find a lifeboat. But I'm trying for my baby's sake. Thanks for listening. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.